Free agency has slowed down across the NFL. Most teams have already made their biggest signings, and now the focus shifts to the moves that could truly reshape a roster before the season begins. When you look at the current situation surrounding the New England Patriots, one position still stands out as unfinished business: the edge rusher spot. The team made some moves, but the depth chart still leaves serious questions. And that's why a potential trade scenario involving Minnesota Vikings edge rusher Jonathan Grenard has started to gain attention. Reports surfaced through NFL insiders, including Adam Schefter, indicating that the Vikings are open to trade discussions involving Grenard. The situation appears to revolve around contract complications. Grenard is seeking an extension, and Minnesota's dealing with salary cap challenges that have pushed them to explore possible options. In other words, this isn't speculation out of nowhere. There's a real financial and roster situation happening in Minnesota that could make a trade possible, and the Patriots have been mentioned as one of the potential landing spots. When you examine New England's current defensive front, it's easy to understand why this conversation is happening. The Patriots lost K'Lavon Chaisson, which already removed a piece from the edge rotation. The team also moved on from Anthony Jennings, another departure that creates a gap in the depth chart. Right now, the projected edge group is led by Dre'Mont Jones and Harold Landry, with hopes that younger players can step up behind them. But that's where uncertainty begins to creep in. Braden Swinson spent most of last season without making a major impact and largely remained on the practice squad. Elijah Ponder showed flashes after arriving following the trade deadline, but he is still a rookie, and expecting him to carry a significant defensive workload would be risky. When you put all of that together, the Patriots don't just need another edge rusher for depth. They may actually need someone capable of elevating the entire pass rush. That's exactly why Jonathan Grenard becomes such an intriguing possibility. Even during an injury-affected season in 2025, he still produced when he was on the field. In just 12 games, he recorded 3 sacks and 10 tackles for loss. While those numbers might not immediately jump off the page, the underlying pressure statistics tell a more interesting story. Grenard finished 7th in the entire league with a pressure rate of 13.5% and ranked 30th among 115 edge rushers with 47 total quarterback pressures. His PFF grade of 74.2 was also higher than both of the Patriots' current starters. Harold Landry finished with a 70.9 grade, while K'Lavon Chaisson had a 60.4 before leaving the roster. That comparison alone suggests that Grenard could instantly become one of the most productive pass rushers on the Patriots' defensive front. And if you look at what he accomplished when fully healthy, the potential becomes even clearer. Over a 2-season stretch earlier in his career, Grenard recorded 111 total tackles, 33 tackles for loss, 24.5 sacks, and 5 forced fumbles. Those are impact numbers, the kind that can change games and take pressure off the rest of the defense. Another key factor here is age. Grenard is only 28 years old, which means he's still right in the prime window for an elite edge rusher. Around the league, we've seen players like Khalil Mack and Trey Hendrickson continue to produce well into their 30s while earning massive contracts. If Grenard returns to full health, there's a strong argument that his best football could still be ahead of him. The real question for New England becomes financial and strategic. Taking on Grenard's contract would come with a significant cap hit, reportedly around $15 million. The Patriots currently have roughly $33 million in available cap space, so absorbing that number would be possible, but it would require careful planning. Contract restructures or extensions for players like Milton Williams or Mike Onwenu could create additional room if the front office decided this move was worth it. Then there's the trade compensation itself. One proposal floating around suggests the Patriots could send a 3rd-round pick, number 95 overall, along with a 7th-round pick. Considering New England currently holds multiple late-round selections, including 4 6th-round picks and several 7th-rounders, that type of package wouldn't dramatically damage their draft capital. So the decision becomes philosophical. Do the Patriots invest draft picks in a proven pass rusher who has already shown he can produce at a high level in the NFL, or do they take their chances in the upcoming draft class, which is also expected to feature several promising edge prospects? Because if New England truly wants to take the next step defensively, the pass rush must improve. Adding a player like Jonathan Grenard could immediately change the pressure dynamics for the entire defense and create a much more dangerous front alongside Harold, Landry, and Dre'Mont Jones. But at the same time, this isn't the only major storyline surrounding the Patriots right now, because another situation involving a superstar wide receiver could also reshape the future of this roster, and that conversation might stretch all the way into the summer. So before we continue deeper into that developing story, let me ask you something, Patriots fans. If the price really was a 3rd-round pick and a 7th-round pick, would you make the trade to bring Jonathan Grenard to New England, or would you rather see the team address the edge position in the draft instead? At the same time, all this discussion about the pass rush is happening, another storyline continues to hover over the Patriots, and it's one that fans have been hearing about almost Daily, the situation involving wide receiver A.J. Brown has not disappeared, and if anything, the latest developments suggest this could remain one of the most talked about possibilities surrounding New England for quite a while. According to recent updates from league insiders, including comments from Ian Rappaport, the situation between the Philadelphia Eagles and A.J. Brown has gone through several stages already. At different moments, there were multiple teams showing interest in a potential trade. Early conversations reportedly involved around 4 teams monitoring the situation closely. Some organizations explored the possibilities seriously, while others eventually stepped away after evaluating the financial and roster implications. As things stand right now, the Patriots appear to be the team most consistently connected to these discussions. Dialogue between the two sides has been mentioned repeatedly, and that alone is enough to keep the speculation alive among fans and analysts. However, the biggest complication here isn't necessarily interest from teams. The real obstacle is the financial impact of moving a player like A.J. Brown. If the Eagles were to trade him before June 1st, the team would absorb roughly $40 million in dead cap charges. That kind of financial hit is extremely difficult for any front office to justify, even when moving a star player. But after June 1st, that situation changes significantly. The dead cap would drop to around $20 million instead. While still a large number, cutting that penalty in half suddenly makes the scenario far more manageable from a salary cap perspective. That's why some insiders believe the entire situation could potentially drag on for months. If Philadelphia decided to wait until after June 1st to complete a deal, it would also change the structure of the compensation involved. Instead of receiving draft picks for the upcoming 2026 draft, the Eagles would likely receive selections for the 2027 draft. From a strategic standpoint, that creates a complicated decision. Teams usually prefer to acquire picks that can help them immediately rather than waiting an additional year. That's why there are 2 possible timelines floating around right now. One scenario is that the Eagles decide to move quickly if they truly want to make the trade happen, accepting the financial consequences in order to receive draft capital for the next draft cycle. The other scenario is patience, waiting until June when the cap situation becomes more favorable, but delaying the return assets by a full year. Another development that has added fuel to the conversation involves tight end Dallas Goedert. Philadelphia recently completed a 1-year contract with him worth $7 million. That move slightly reshapes their financial structure and has led some observers to believe the Eagles could still complete a trade involving A.J. Brown before June if they really wanted to. Even if the dead cap hit remains large, their overall cap situation would still leave them with more space than they had at the start of free agency. In other words, the door hasn't completely closed on an earlier deal. From the Patriots' perspective, the appeal is obvious. Adding a player of A.J. Brown's caliber would instantly transform the offense. A receiver with his physical presence and production would give the quarterback a true #1 target and force opposing defenses to completely rethink how they cover New England's passing attack. That's why the conversation refuses to disappear, even though the rumors have been circulating for weeks. Every new update from insiders keeps the possibility alive just a little longer. And until something definitive happens, either a trade or a clear statement that the Eagles are keeping him, the speculation will likely continue. At the same time, the Patriots still have other priorities to address. Improving the pass rush remains critical. The draft is approaching quickly, and the front office must balance short-term upgrades with long-term roster building. Every move they make right now will shape how competitive this team can become over the next few seasons. But if a blockbuster move like acquiring A.J. Brown were to actually happen, it would immediately change expectations around the entire franchise. Suddenly, the conversation around the Patriots wouldn't just be about rebuilding or improving the roster. It would shift toward whether this team could re-enter the conversation among serious contenders in the league. Now, the big question becomes how patient everyone involved is willing to be. Are the Eagles prepared to wait for the financial advantages of June, or will they try to resolve the situation earlier? And if the Patriots truly are the team most engaged in discussions, how far is New England willing to go to make that deal happen? That's a storyline we're going to keep following closely because every single update has the potential to change the direction of this team's offseason. And if anything major breaks, we'll be here talking about it immediately. And the reason this entire situation continues to stay alive is because every time it seems like the rumors might finally slow down, another update appears that keeps the conversation moving again. The Patriots have been mentioned repeatedly in connection with A.J. Brown, and even though nothing has happened yet, the simple fact that the dialogue still exists tells you this story isn't completely finished. From a roster-building standpoint, you can understand why New England would at least explore the possibility. Adding a receiver with A.J. Brown's production would immediately give the offense something it has been searching for, a true dominant presence on the outside. A player who can win contested catches, stretch the field, and command double coverage changes how an entire defense lines up. That kind of impact doesn't just show up in the stat sheet it opens. Opportunities for every other offensive weapon on the field. But trades like this are never simple. The financial aspect, the timing of the deal, and the draft compensation all have to align. Philadelphia would have to decide that moving on from one of its biggest offensive stars is worth the return they receive. At the same time, the Patriots would need to evaluate how much they are willing to invest in order to bring in that level of talent. And that's where patience becomes the key word in this entire situation. The NFL offseason is long, and sometimes the biggest moves don't happen during the first wave of free agency. Sometimes they happen weeks later when contract structures, cap space, and roster priorities start to shift. That's exactly why insiders have suggested this could stretch deeper into the offseason timeline. For Patriots fans, though, it creates an interesting moment to watch. On one side, the team is still evaluating defensive upgrades, including the possibility of bringing in another edge rusher to strengthen the pass rush. On the other side, there's a potential blockbuster move involving one of the league's most productive wide receivers still floating in the background. If both of those areas were addressed successfully, the outlook for this roster could change dramatically. A stronger pass rush on defense combined with a legitimate number one receiver on offense would give the Patriots two major upgrades in the areas that impact games the most, pressuring the quarterback and creating explosive plays. That's why every new report continues to spark debate among the fan base. Some believe the team should focus primarily on building through the draft, especially with a class that is expected to have several strong defensive prospects available. Others believe that if an opportunity appears to acquire proven NFL talent, the Patriots should be aggressive and take advantage of it. And realistically, both strategies can exist at the same time. The front office can still explore trades while continuing to prepare for the draft. In fact, that's exactly what most successful organizations do during this phase of the offseason. They keep every option open until the right move presents itself. What we know right now is this: the Patriots have been connected to multiple important storylines. The search for pass rush help continues, the draft strategy is beginning to take shape, and the possibility of a major offensive addition hasn't completely disappeared. And until one of these situations finally reaches a conclusion, the conversation isn't going anywhere. So now it turns back to you, Patriots fans. Do you think the team should stay patient and build through the draft, or would you rather see New England make a bold move if the opportunity to trade for a star like A.J. Brown becomes real? What makes this entire moment even more fascinating for Patriots fans is that the franchise appears to be standing at a crossroads where several different directions are possible at the same time. The front office has already addressed certain needs during free agency, but the reality is that a roster transformation rarely happens in just one phase of the offseason. The most successful teams usually keep adjusting, looking for opportunities in trades, monitoring other teams' cap situations, and preparing their draft boards in case a player they value starts to slide. And that's exactly why conversations, like the ones involving Jonathan Grenard and A.J. Brown, remain relevant right now. These situations represent two completely different ways of improving the team, yet both could have a massive impact if they actually happened. One strengthens the defense by bringing in a proven pass rusher, while the other completely reshapes